Good afternoon from Austin, Texas, and the U.S. Men's National Team training camp. Today we're joined by defender Tim Ream and midfielder Cristian Roldan. Just a couple notes as we get started. For those of you who will be in Austin, tomorrow's training session, 11:15 a.m., open for the first 15 minutes. Also, we updated the media availability schedule for the week. Please take note on Thursday that training begins at 11:15 a.m. and not 12:15 p.m. All of the rest of their schedule will remain the same. As we begin, if you'd like to get in the queue to ask a question, you can do so by virtually raising your hand. And we'll begin with Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, guys. Thanks for doing this. Question for each of you. Mauricio had some really interesting comments last week, just, regarding how he sort of approaches communication, player selection. And he said repeatedly that, it doesn't matter what you did 4 years ago. So you have guys like, Eunice or Joe that were part of that squad. They're not here. When you see guys that are experienced players like that, like, what does that do internally? How does it make you feel? How does it up the competition level? Like, what does that do for, what is that message that's received by you guys? And then Cristian, I just wanted to ask you, having been part of a World Cup squad before, obviously you both were, and Tim, if you could chime in on this too, it'd be great. Like, how important is having that environment? I mean, you're sequestered for 5-6 weeks, whatever. Like, how do you go about creating it and maintaining it, and how important is it? Thanks, guys.
I could start with that last piece. Yeah, I think, right, in Gold Cups, Nations League, World Cups, it's extremely important to have, number one, a good culture, a good group of human beings. Obviously the quality has to be there, but you're locked down for essentially 40 days, and so when times get tough, you need to have a good backbone, good stability within the group, and so, right, that's extremely important. Having been to a World Cup, I know how that all works. And then listen, for me, it's about establishing myself again, with a new coach, and establishing myself here with new players. Right, I need to earn the trust of new players, and that's part of building a good culture.
Yeah, in terms of your question on the messaging and the communication, obviously every manager and coach's communication style will be different. But for us, I think the message is that you have to push yourself in every single situation that you're in, whether that's at club, whether that's with the national team, and sometimes that is good enough, and sometimes other players may be doing something that you aren't. So I think the overall message is that nobody's spot is guaranteed. Whether we look at a squad of 26 and say, okay, he's on the list, he's number one, he's guaranteed a spot. There is no such thing as a guarantee. And I think that's kind of the way you have to approach not just national team career and games and sessions and camps, but your club form and your club situations as well. And that should be your driver. The driver of pushing yourself to the absolute limit and giving yourself every chance and every possibility to be called in. And it still may not be enough. And that's the way the sport is, and that's the way national teams go. It's just because you were at a previous World Cup doesn't mean you're guaranteed another one. And I said that after the World Cup in Qatar, and here we are 9 months out, and that's still the case. Just because him and I were, Cristian and I were in the last World Cup doesn't mean that we're going to be involved in the next one. We have to continually earn our spot, and hopefully that that puts you in a position to at least be in consideration for another World Cup.
Next will be Stephen Goff from Yahoo.
Thanks, Michael. For you guys, one for each. First, Tim, belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
And now that it is a birthday, I think there's been a perception in the public, fair or not, that you've been a bridge between young and older, experienced players. Now we're getting close to a World Cup. So how do you see yourself heading into these last few months before a World Cup, your role on the team? And then if Cristian, you could just comment on what you see in Tim's leadership and character that's helped keep him in the mix.
I'm gonna go first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll let you formulate your thoughts. Hopefully that gives him a chance to say some good things.
Good things.
No, listen, I'm going to continue to push and try to, contribute minutes. I know I said after the last World Cup that, okay, it could be my last, it could be my very first and last, and here we are. And for me, I've always maintained that I'll push myself to the absolute maximum, and wring every ounce of playing time that I can out of my body and my mind, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to continue to push to be a starter. It may not work out that way, as I just said before. Things change. Things happen, and you just never know. But I think it's important, especially as you start to get older, to set goals and set them high and try to reach those. And if you just fall under them, and I'm the old guy in the corner handing out orange slices and giving pep talks to these guys, then okay, then I've still contributed something to the team environment and the culture. But my aim and my goal is to be starting games. Whether that happens or not is obviously down to me, but then also down to other decisions, and down to other players and their form as well. So that's where I see myself. I'm going to continue to push, and to be an example that you can continue to push, and contribute on in big games and in big moments, and be a part of big teams.
Yeah, and I think when I think of Tim, I think of poise, I think of leadership, I think of control, in every aspect. He brings a different aura to the team, and he creates a really good environment, a really welcoming environment for a lot of guys, and that's the type of leader that we need. And one thing I will say about Tim is, he's essentially kind of revitalized his national team career at an older age, and it provided me with a little bit more added motivation to get back here with the team, to really believe that I could get here. And so, he's an example that you can not only play at a really high level but sustain that throughout your career. And what Tim brings to the team is something that is really hard to replace.
Just a point of information on Tim. He's played 11 times in 2025 for the national team, third most on the team. He's captained the team 10 of those 11 times he's appeared in 2025. We will continue with Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Tim and Cristian, for doing this. I have a question that maybe both of you could address, depending on your relationship, but I was wondering your perspective on Jesus Perez and his role with the national team, his role on the staff, kind of what your interactions have been like with him, and what he adds to the mix for the U.S. team.
You want me to take it?
I mean, you've been here longer, so.
Oh, okay. I'll take it. No, yeah, Jesus is, he's an extension of Mauricio. He's got his finger on the pulse with everything. Sees all the small details, but also all the big ones as well. I think he's very much the glue that kind of keeps all the departments, together. And his communication is very similar to that of Mauricio. Lots of personal kind of one-on-one conversations, but also making sure that everybody's doing the right thing. Everybody's doing the right thing at all times, and all pulling and doing the things together and pulling in the same direction. I think again, he takes sessions, makes sure that our intensity, our focus, our focus is always at a top level. And again, he's very much an extension of Maurizio, and very much the the guy that keeps everything ticking over, and keeps everything moving in the right direction. And it's somebody that can really keep a group at a high level for a sustained amount of time. And that's something that he's really good at, and something that I think we've definitely needed to have that type of individual within the group. And I think he's really pushing us to become better players, and better individuals.
Next will be Ryan Talmadge from Goal.com.
Thank you, Michael. Cristian, this one's for you. Last camp, obviously, the switch to a back three. In the second game, and I feel like we've asked Tim and Chris Richards like a whole bunch about what this means for center backs. But with every tactical change, like there's a knock-on effect, and that everyone's role kind of changes, and everyone has to do some certain things. So when you're in the midfield and you have a back three behind you versus a back two, what changes for you? And looking ahead to this camp, when you don't have Tyler, who is a guy who mows up ground and takes up all this space, how does that change for the midfielders, and how do you kind of set up in these different tactical situations?
Yeah, when you're in a 5-back system with 4 midfielders, 1 striker, it just means as a midfielder you need to be far more aggressive, right? You have guys behind you to support you in the press that can step into the midfield. And so in our game against Japan, you saw how aggressive Tyler and I were, pressing up higher up the field, supporting our front three. And then it allows, stability as well. You're in a 3-1, 3-2 and build up, and, you have guys behind the ball. But, when we're playing against a 5, with a 5, it matches up perfectly. When it's a 4, it's slightly different. But when we're in a 4 in the back, right, sometimes you're defending more spaces, front to back, side to side a little bit more. Whereas when you're in a 5, you're far more aggressive, almost man-orientated towards the other midfielders. And then what was the last question? Was there a last question there?
I think you covered most of it.
I think I covered it. Okay, great.
Next will be Jeff Carlisle from ESPN FC.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, guys. At the risk of being redundant, question for Tim. For you, how was it different playing with 2 center backs beside you as opposed to 1? And also, in what way do you think that formation suits you guys? I mean, in what ways do you think it kind of helps your strengths?
Yeah, I mean, the piggybacking off of Christian's answer, it allows the center backs to actually be more aggressive as well, because your midfielders are going to be more aggressive, and the center backs can step in and take care of at least one, can step in and take care of anybody dropping into the midfield, and that you have really good cover all around you. It does change a little bit as the ball goes wide, and if you're matched up with the other team who's playing a 5, and your wing backs are jumping a little bit higher, the side center backs have to shift a little bit more. But I think it just the overall aggressiveness of it allows you to do that, right? The overall structure allows you to be a little bit more aggressive in that situation. In terms of what it means going forward, I think it just gives us a flexibility. I think it allows us to play different systems, depending on personnel, depending on, guys who are here, and depending on what the other team, their approach to the game is. So I think that's really good. I think, it allows us to not just switch, in game and in situation, but also allows us to start games different ways. And it could be, something that allows us to maybe not necessarily surprise teams, but be able to switch back and forth, and keep other teams on their toes and always guessing.
Next will be Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thank you, Michael. It sort of was going to be my question in a way, but Tim, I guess I'd ask you to expand a little bit on the element of surprise and the switching back and forth, because for many years now, this team has usually played one way all the way through a World Cup cycle, and that's been it. And I wonder, what it's like now to have two different ways of playing, and how that might ultimately impact the competition to make a 26-player squad, which is more than 23, but still a hard limit.
I mean, I find it fun, to be completely honest with you. I think it makes you think. It makes you have to understand different scenarios, different situations. I think it allows and forces you to think deeper about each game. It forces you to think more in depth about your own kind of your own role, but your own position. But also forces you to understand the positions around you. And I think that's only a good thing. That's something I think, we've, like you said, we've traditionally just played one system and that's it. But I think, again, it's important to have different ways to play, and being able to use that to our advantage. Like you said, there's limits to how many players you can have in a squad, but I mean, for us as players, that's not really something that we think of. Obviously, there are always going to be guys who can play multiple positions, and that's a benefit to the group. It's a benefit to the coaching staff. But for them, that's something that they analyze and look at. I'm sure on a daily and weekly basis to understand who can fit where and how they can help the team and what they bring to the table. So we leave that up to the coaches, but I think it allows us and forces us to think more deeply about where we're playing, who we're playing, and how we're playing.
Yeah, I would also say that soccer is a fluid sport and things change very fast, and it depends who's also in good form. You want to get the best players out there in the best system possible for them to set up some success. And so a combination of a lot of factors can allow you to play multiple formations, the tactical part, what the team looks like, what their strengths are. So being flexible is definitely a good characteristic to have.
We'll go to Thomas Floyd from the Washington Post.
Thanks, Michael. Mauricio last month mentioned that the September camp was perhaps a final opportunity to experiment with new players. The roster for this camp is a bit more experienced. Just how would you describe the tone, the mindset coming into this camp with, I guess, a few more familiar faces on the roster?
Yeah, I think for me, right, September camp in particular was definitely a camp for me to show what I could bring to the team, other players as well. So in that sense, yeah, it feels definitely more experienced this camp. But I think the mentality is focused. I think that we had a good game against Japan, and how can we build off that, right? How can we establish the formations, the tactics, the ideas that Coach Pochettino wants to bring to the team, and then show it on Friday against a tough Ecuador side. And so focus, high intensity, aggressive. I think those are the style, the characteristics we want to have on the field come Friday.
Next will be Mike Waitala from Soccer America.
Thanks. Tim, what's the key to having such a long and successful pro career? Like, say if a young player asks you for some advice, what would you share with them about maybe your approach, your attitude, or maybe any tips that you found were a key to you having such a long career?
I don't think we have long enough to sit here and go through everything, to be honest with you.
Summarize.
Find a good girl to have your back and settle down with her. Listen, I mean, I started from a young age. My focus from a young age was, okay, I wanted to be a professional, and I want to play as long as I can. That I think first and foremost is important. And then I think, finding things that work for you. What works for me isn't going to work for Cristian. What works for Cristian probably wouldn't work for me. It's finding the even the small things that kind of help you along in that path. Adaptability is a huge one. I mean, we talk about being flexible, but being able to adapt to different coaching styles, to different managers, to different different leagues. It's I think that's the biggest thing is being able to adapt. Taking your lumps when they come, but also when you get knocked down, just getting up again, because there's so many times that you're going to get knocked down in sport and in life, and it's how many times you're going to get up. If you can get up one more time and you get knocked down, you're gonna keep on going, for as long as you really want to. And I think that's been my biggest thing is adaptability, and when you get knocked down and get knocked back, you keep just plowing forward.
Next will be Brian Schroeder with American Soccer Now.
Hey, Michael. Cristian, just kind of piggybacking off that last question to Tim, what have you gained this year from the Clubs World Cup and Leagues Cup, and how maybe are you a different player than you were last cycle, and maybe what have you added to your game that has allowed you to kind of age well? I think you guys are the two guys over 30 on this roster. What have you done yourself to maybe prolong your career and shift it in towards another decade?
You're 30?
30.
Damn, you're old.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think establishing myself as a one position player has helped me a ton. I think that I benefited a whole lot of being able to play multiple positions in the last World Cup cycle, being able to fit into different tactical formations, positions. But now I've been able to hone in on being a center midfielder, a deep line midfielder. And I think that's helped me tremendously, just being able to widen my range of passing, direct traffic, be a leader. The game has slowed down quite a bit for me, and it's helped me a ton. So I feel like I'm playing the best soccer of my life, but I've got to continue in this way. I think FIFA Club World Cup helped me tremendously. It really gave me the confidence that I can play against the very best in the world. Holding my own against some teams like PSG and Atletico really gave me a lot of confidence afterwards, and that led to Leagues Cup. And so I'm playing with a lot of confidence right now. I really believe that I can help this team. I really believe that I can make a World Cup squad, but that half of it is manifesting it, right? If you believe that you can be here, you're putting yourself in a good spot.
We have time for a couple more questions. We'll continue with Pardeep Khatri from CBS.
Hi, this one's more for Tim, but Cristian, if you wanted to chime in, you can. Mauricio's coming on the 1 year mark of starting in the job, and Tim, I'm just curious from your perspective, what has it been like getting to know him, learning about his working style, and just being around for what has been a really interesting year with the national team between, as people have already mentioned, the different players that have come in and out, and like the tactical change, formation changes, and the flexibility that's come with that. I'm just curious about your perspective on all of it.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a year of learning. It's been a year of really, again, adapting to a different style than I've played under, in terms of what we do off the field and the gym, and then you step out onto the field, and then the communication that he has with each individual when we're in camp, and it's been a learning process for everybody, and I've maintained for a long time that no matter how old you are, you can always learn something in this game. You can learn something every game, every session, every camp, and I think that's something that I've really taken to heart, and I think the biggest thing is the intensity and the focus that they put on each session. It is so, okay, right, we step over the line, like this is it. Nothing else matters. There's nothing in the world between the start of a training or the start of a game and the end of a training or end of a game. There's nothing else that matters. Every touch, every pass, every piece of communication is the most important thing, and that's something that I think has really started to take hold within the group, and it's something that I've noticed, really become prevalent over the last year. Not even touching on the different tactical formations and all of that, just the level of intensity and care that they put into each session and game is something that has been pretty interesting to see and learn over the past year.
October 10th, 2024, Mauricio's first game in charge, a 2-0 win against Panama right here in Austin. Last question goes to Andrew Jones.
Thanks, Michael, as always. First for you, Cristian. Mauricio praised your mentality and just your team bond in the last window. He praised that with us last week. Have you been pleasantly surprised with how Mauricio has been very much respectful towards MLS players and really valuing you just as much as Euro players? And if you were able, or anyone able, to say happy birthday to Tim after the last time you and Cristian played against each other, was it back in the beginning of the season with Charlotte and Seattle? I had the 2-2 tie. Talk about that fun experience playing against Cristian. So for you, Cristian, first.
Yeah, I think I'll talk about the Charlotte game, the first game of the season, I believe. We kicked your guys' butts, but
True.
We still tied. It's just the Charlotte way; they survive. But it was really good to see Tim in a new environment. Weird to see him in MLS. Weird to see him in Lumen Field on turf. But I'm really proud of him to see what he's done with his career and continues to do so. And I think for me, I've been received really well by Coach Pochettino. He's done a really good job of making me feel welcome and back, essentially, with the team, right? There are things that I bring to the team that I know can make a difference. And I hope that he continues to believe and see that in me. My mindset has to be aggressive on the field, do the things that I do well on the field, and then off the field, understand that I might not be playing every game. How can I still impact the team? How can I train really hard? How can I create that environment, the winning mentality environment within the group, as well as create good spirits when times get tough. And so on the field, aggressive, great mentality, and then off the field, do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it was nice going back there. Wasn't so nice playing left back. Who's the winger?
Georgie Manungu.
Oh my gosh. Listen, we all know I'm not the quickest, and that boy is lightning. No, it was great. I mean, for me, one of my first games in MLS was in Seattle when I was with the Red Bulls, and now my first game, first full season back in the league, heading back there again and seeing guys that we spent last cycle with, spent part of the World Cup and all of the World Cup with, and Cristian and Jesus and JMO, Jordan, Morris, seeing these guys and what did he tie the record? He broke the record. He broke the record against us. So that wasn't great, but listen, it's always fun to travel around and play in different places and see guys that you've shared different memories and different games with, whether that be at the national team or club level, and catch up. So that was an interesting experience. Not the best game for Charlotte, but we've actually done all right since then. So, but no, yeah, it's always good to go different places and play in great environments and play against different teams and guys that you've shared a lot of memories with.
Thanks to Tim and Cristian and all of you for joining today. A reminder, we'll be here again the same time tomorrow with Haji Wright and Alex and Dejas.